If you think Shazam 2 or Ant-Man 3 were massive bombs, let me briefly tell you the story of Heaven's Gate, the most brutal box office flop in film history. Director Michael Cimino, fresh off a Best Picture win for The Deer Hunter, got a blank check from United Artists to make his next film, and he just kept adding zeros. The budget soared to the equivalent of $147 million today, and he turned in a cut that was 5 hours long. Critics and audiences hated it, and the massive failure at the box office contributed to the entire studio going bankrupt later that year. Cimino's career never fully recovered. His filmography's short considering his second movie won 5 Oscars and earned $145 million in today's dollars, which is why Heaven's Gate enjoys near mythical status within Hollywood lore as a career-killing disaster for almost everyone involved. But is Heaven's Gate the norm in Hollywood? Or is it an outlier? How much does a box office bomb impact the future of the actors, directors, and producers involved, if at all? And how has the landscape of Hollywood flops evolved over time? With the help of Daniel Parris at StatSignificant.com and my trusty AI assistant Fanda,
I am entering my flop era.
We'll track down all that and more on today's episode of By the Numbers. Our goal today is to determine the extent box office bombs derail Hollywood careers. But first, let's decide exactly what qualifies as a flop. A flop has to be more than just slightly short of profitable. Box office flops are the worst of the worst, the ones that substantially impact a studio's bottom line and could feasibly derail a whole career. So our analysis will assign flop status to a film if its inflation-adjusted budget is over $50 million and it fails to recoup more than 50% of its funding in domestic ticket sales. Cool? Cool. Of the 5,500 most popular films, let's analyze their production budget versus box office results to determine all major flops.
Scanning. Did you know Taika Waititi was in Green Lantern? Scan complete.
I did know that.
Yes! I mean, damn it.
Now for every flop, analyze the rest of the actors, directors, and producers' filmography and see if you can find any consistent patterns for what happens next.
Scanning. Correlation found. Displaying results.
So check this out. Whether they're one of the filmmakers or one of the main cast, their next films experience a consistent decrease in budget after releasing a flop. Directors get hit the hardest, as they bear the most ownership over a film's creative vision, while at the same time spending someone else's money to execute it. Producers see the second largest drop-off in future funding, as they either have less of their own personal funds to invest, or the studio's wary of spending more money on one of their projects. And then we have actors, who are mostly guilty by association. They didn't write this crap. Lead actors in flops see a significant dip in their future projects' budgets, with second leads experiencing a nominal drop in project funding. But beyond just lower budgets, actors typically lose their leading role status following a noteworthy bomb. Fanda?
Displaying PFCD, post-flop credit drop.
When we look at average credit orderings, 1 representing the movie's starring role and 4 representing the movie's fourth lead, we see an actor slide down the credit order post-flop. After a bomb, a lead actor's forced to take more supporting roles in the future.
I got a really bad feeling about this.
Fanda, whose career has the biggest difference pre- and post-flop?
Scanning. Displaying actors' results first.
This list of fallen performers gives us a few potential interpretations for when a flop can significantly harm your career. Aging actors. Leading roles generally skew younger, thus a bomb for an actor in the later stages of their career could further reduce an already limited set of options. Consider Dustin Hoffman, Danny Glover, Chevy Chase, or Sharon Stone. These actors were in highly public flops toward the end of middle age, after which their career trajectory changed. Producers may interpret flops as proof of an aging actor's fading commercial appeal, and that is super harsh. Then there's actors changing preference. Sometimes, actors opt out of blockbuster movies following a bad experience on a high-budget film, or series of bad experiences. Nicole Kidman took on several high-quality TV projects, like Big Little Lies or The Undoing, following 2 prominent box office bombs. Similarly, Colin Farrell has found recent success in indie films and supporting roles because pre-MCU Marvel movies were traumatic for everybody.
Show mercy.
Finally, there's actors with flops early in their career. Hayden Christensen, Macaulay Culkin, and Matthew Modine were prominently featured in flops at the start of their careers. They were flying high after previous high-profile projects like Star Wars, Home Alone, or Full Metal Jacket, but lacked career capital to survive the stink of a box office bomb. What about the directors, Fanda?
Displaying director results.
The story of cause and effect is a lot more straightforward for directors who make a flop. They made bad films and lost the studio a lot of money. You lose someone else's money, you lose the chance to get money in the future. That's capitalism, baby! And yet, there are some examples of actors and directors who survive multiple flops with no hit to their future projects. Check these lucky SOBs out. Our list of flop-resistant performers is 100% male, which you can interpret however you like, and skews towards comedic actors. Meanwhile, our group of directors surviving multiple flops is limited to 2. The lack of depth on this list further underscores the fragility of directing careers. So if you're a director, you probably want to make sure your film is good or makes money. See? Who needs film school? So that's the flop effect on a micro scale. But let's pull back and take a look at the macro history of flops, shall we? When it comes to project funding, the entertainment industry has a lot of parallels to the tech world. Venture capitalists and studios alike make a series of bets. Sometimes these bets result in a loss, while other times these bets produce asymmetrical, huge returns. Of course, failure is baked into this funding model. A truth venture capitalists readily accept when they fund the next Uber for unicycles or whatever. But studios appear to have lost their appetite for risk over the years. Fanda, show us the number of movie flops over time.
Displaying FFOT, film flops over time.
Sometime in the late 2000s, the annual frequency of box office bombs began to go down. Now look at the percentage of flops over time.
Displaying PFO.
Yeah, we get it, Fanda. Show the graph. You can see that over the last 2 decades, studios have significantly decreased their rate of floppage. Put differently, studios are more efficient with their spending, as each high-budget project enjoys a higher likelihood of dodging serious failure. And how have Hollywood studios managed to increase the efficiency of their big-budget spending? By leveraging existing IP. That's sequels, reboots, and adaptations of previously beloved stories, guaranteeing some level of built-in audience for their most expensive projects. 4 of the big 5 movie studios are publicly traded companies. That means they're facing pressure to grow their bottom line indefinitely. So they can't even afford a box office bomb. Every film must be engineered to give audiences more of the same and never really push boundaries. So here we are, in a stagnant industry where 17 of the top 20 films of 2022 were sequels or based on a previously established IP. And that's sad to me. Big swings are essential to creative innovation. Sure, sometimes big risk leads to public failure, ridicule, heavy financial loss, but sometimes it doesn't. For every Heaven's Gate, there's an Apocalypse Now. For every John Carter, Man from Mars, underrated by the way, there's a John Wick, Man from Long Island. Unfortunately, if the current economic structure remains in place, original films and the creative license their filmmakers enjoyed are just one more fading relic of Hollywood's past.